couldn't make it, so we'll be able to go through him. First one I'm going to talk about is Brian Creel. This kid is the perfect example of what leadership looks like. Everything I've ever asked him to do, he has found a way to get it done. At 145 pounds, he's the fiercest dude in that room, and everybody's scared of him. Don't let those guys up there lie to you. Brian is the ultimate example of what a young man can do when he puts his mind to it and puts himself in a leadership position. Not only early on, he was a much show-by-example leader, but as he got older and he got more confident, he became much more of a vocal leader and was the undisputed captain of this team since he's been here. Brian has given me every single thing that he's had on the wrestling mat, football field, classroom, and a guy like him is irreplaceable. That's why someday, when his mother told me he wants to coach, I will hire him. Hopefully, if I'm looking to become an AD, sorry, Coach Shanefield, Coach Horman, I'm going to hire him before y'all can. Guys like him don't come around very often, who want to put in the work, want to put everything it gives to be successful, doesn't ask why, doesn't ask why me or anything else like that. He finds a way to do things at the best of his ability. Now, Brian, I'm going to cut it a little short because you have a war coming up in a little bit anyway. And I'm going to talk about you a little bit more about your legacy, okay? So, Brian Creel. He was also, and you're going to come over here and I'm going to read your whole stat line for you. A district champion, 4-time regional qualifier, 2-time state qualifier, and he was the first boys state qualifier in school history. I thank him for everything he's done. Francis-Diaku. What can I say about this young man? I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss him greatly. The thing about this young man is that he's goofy. He always keeps me on my toes. He's one of those smart guys that can keep up with adults. The thing that you notice about him, though, is that you don't see, he's a big muscled up dude who's really athletic, but he's also a great artist. He's going to go
He is. I remember that.
He can draw to the best of some of the best I've ever seen. He can draw just basically off of eyesight or thought or whatever else like that. He's going to go to college and be an artist, be a graphic designer. And you don't understand the depth that this kid has. A lot of people look at a young man and say, oh, he's just a big muscled up athlete. You don't understand who he is. He is well spoken. He is artistic. He is smart. When he was a sophomore, if anybody remembers, he used to wrestle like a sloth. But he has changed himself and is taking coaching and has never had to ask me why or anything else like that. Sometimes I didn't think he was listening, but he always did. Sometimes that's how he is. I was the same way. It was hard for me to just sit there and stare at you and just say, all right, off the bat, especially when it's hard.
Like a flower.
But he always took it and ran with it. And when you went to the state tournament, you saw what kind of kid he really was. In his last match, we had to stop. And it was on an injury default. I can say that because it was actually the illegal term for it and within that. He wanted to keep going. We had to stop the match. But if anybody was there to see what he was doing and the courage he put in, you understand what kind of kid this is and what kind of character and toughness this guy has. And I'm going to miss him greatly. Francis-Diaku. So Jeff's that line. District champion, 3-time regional qualifier, 1-time state qualifier, and placer. He was the first boy ever to place the state because he made the semis in that first day. First boy to medal in the regionals the sophomore year and would have made state if he didn't sleep on his arm and made his arm go numb. We remember that memory finally. Francis-Diaku. Next up, Gibson. Joe, step up. You're shorter than everybody else that I can't see. He is a badger. The basic definition of this. He weighs 106. He was a 106 pounder, went to a 113 pounder, and you wouldn't find somebody meaner on the team. And the way that and I'm talking about in any situation. Joe is one of those guys I never had to tell at practice to pick it up. Didn't matter his partner, whoever it was, he found a way to bring him up to his pace. He never brought anybody down. He never brought himself down. Joe is one of those guys that was lead by example, by voice, and by his actions. He is also one of those guys who are selfless. The reason why we won a lot of our dual meet, because he had to wrestle up. But he goes, Coach, I can do it. A lot of people don't do that. There's a lot of places where wrestlers go, nah, I ain't going up, Coach, I'm good. I don't feel like taking a chance of losing. Luckily in this culture and the kids that we have here and the way that you parents have raised your kids are pretty tough. And Joe, no matter what, would take the challenge. Now, things I'm going to miss about Joe, he can make me laugh no matter what. Because he would challenge me mentally. I'm talking about back and forth. He like Jeff, he is super witty, smart, sharp. Not a sharp dresser as much as he thinks he is. It is. Minus his high waters.
Aww.
You get taller, Joe. You're a grown boy. But this young man in 3 years has given me everything he's had. All 113 pounds soaking wet. No matter the situation, no matter how things bad have gotten, you could always trust Joe's going to step up to the challenge. He made his team better. He made me a better coach. He made this much more enjoyable process because guys like him, when he decided that he was going to focus on wrestling, I told him, I tried to convince him not to. Because I wanted to, the honest reason was a selfish reason. And I don't know if I told him that because I wanted to coach him year-round all the time. And have an opportunity to be around Joe all the time. And I'm going to greatly miss this kid, Joseph Gibson. One-time district champion, 3-time regional qualifier, 1-time state qualifier, and he's been ranked in the top 20 the last 3 years, Joseph Gibson. Matthew Hester. Now, Matthew, if everybody knows here, Matthew's a college football player. He's about to go play college football at the Concordia University in Wisconsin. Matthew, on wrestling, knows that this wasn't his forte. But he was the ultimate team player. No matter when I needed him, he found a way to, whether it be in 220s, 285, because he only weighs around 205, 210 most of the time. And anytime, Coach, I'll do what's best for the team. He sacrificed senior night, so other seniors do that. Coach, he goes, Coach, I wrestled several times. Let those guys that wrestle all the time, let them do that. That's a hard sacrifice to make as a senior, because there's only so many wrestling matches you have. Once again, that kind of unselfishness is rare. And it permeates his character all the way through. You can see it when he talks to his teammates. You can see it when he talks to adults and in the classroom, everywhere. He's just a good person. And he tries to exude that on everybody else. He tries to make everyone else better around him. He made me a better person, a better coach. Once again, falling underneath that, he wants to be a coach. It's like, sorry, Joe, I forgot. You want to be a coach too. I'm going to hire you too. I'm going to try to hire Matthew before them. Hopefully I can be an AD by then. If not, cool, he'll come work on this staff with all of us. Because guys like that make great coaches. Guys that understand the sacrifice and fall in love with the process. And it doesn't matter who gets the reward, because at the end of the year, those trophies that he's standing in front of all come home and all have our names on them. And I thank him for all the time he has. I'm going to be coaching him for a year, so I'm not saying goodbye to him. Matthew Hester. Last year, I actually pulled him into 285, and he essentially wrestled with one arm and almost made it to regionals because we needed an extra guy, and it showed how tough he was, and I appreciate every chance he had with us. Appreciate you, Matt. Last but not least, the ankle pick master himself. Now, see, very rarely do you see him smile. That's what's so rare. And that's why I like him. Y'all know that I don't smile that often either. It's a rare sight.
That's his girl.
Jacob reminds me of me. Because I know that feeling. He's got that look on his face where he looks angry all the time, but he's not. He doesn't smile all the time, but he's not angry. Jacob is one of those guys, when I talk to him and I coach him, once again, same thing the way I was. That's why I don't get super angry at people like that. When Jacob, I talked to him, I would have to look straight ahead, like he's not looking at me, not listening. But all of a sudden, when he go out there, he do exactly what I asked. I knew that he had pride like everybody else, like a lot of young men do, and young ladies do. But he always put his pride aside to be coachable and do what's best for his team. Jacob is one of our hardest workers. Even now, for Francis College football, he's going to play it where I played at Texas Lutheran. So is Jeff. That's a real cool thing to see full circle. Those guys are going to play where I get to play. But even now, he's in the weight room in the mornings, in the athletic room when a lot of seniors have checked it in. He's still doing what he is because he's fallen in love with the process. He is a leader by example. You know that because he's not that loud. Even now, he's not even really smiling. He's sitting there thinking about it. But his lead by example shows what he does. Once again, him and Jeff, I had to stop them at practice because how physical they got. I had to slow them down. Even in drills, when we're saying it's half speed, they're going full speed. It's always live. It's not live. Because they fell in love with this and they want to be the best they are. He was a state alternate last year, and it didn't let him bug him. He made sure that this year, his senior year, he's going to make it to state. And he accomplished his goals. He beat the number 3 wrestler at state. He wouldn't maybe not have been happy, but that's a pretty cool deal to beat a guy who was undefeated and pinned him. He's got a lot of things to be proud of, and I can't wait to see what he does in his next step of his life. Jacob Trim. Jacob's stat line. 3-time regional qualifier, 1-time state alternate, 1-time state qualifier, all 3 years in the top 20 5A wrestlers. Thank you, Jacob.